not a cage made for the Jeep Comanche, it's actually made for the Cherokee, and it's become very popular in that community. So I'm trying to make this work on the truck version. So I think it looks way better if it sticks off the front just a little bit. And when you hold the A-pillar up to it, it kind of matches everything else. This will be about a ½ inch higher than that, so I have clearance for the ceiling. So I'm going to measure from in that hole down to the plates in the corners, and I'll get those pieces cut up and we'll be right back. I want to put this other spreader bar on here so that it moves this whole hoop forward a little bit, and we can mount those B-pillars to the rear spreader bar, which will make this whole thing a lot stronger. But I want to space these out a little bit, and then I want to tie them together. So I'm going to make a piece that goes in between here. It's going to be a really short tube that's notched on both ends. Now to do that, you could start by notching the end of a tube. You want to have a long enough piece to where you can fit it in here. That way you can measure how tall you want your piece to be right here, crimp it down, and when you cut that, you'll have this piece to use. It's also a good idea to mark the tube on both ends and then put a mark on your tube notcher so that if you have to flip it over, you can line it up again. Here's a hot tip for you. If you have a piece of angle iron that is clamped onto or welded onto a table, you can use that to make straight lines on your piece of tubing. So then you just got to measure however long you want that to be. In this case, I want these tubes to be a ½ inch long. Now because I'm using a really short hole saw, we could flip this over and cut it from the other side. Now you have one really short notched tube. So I gotta make 4 more of these, and this thing will be ready to weld up. One last tip for you guys. If you set this up like this, where you have both notches on a piece of tube, you could rest the inside notch onto your hole saw. Then you'll know that this piece and this piece will be exactly the same. So now I've got 5 of these pieces. We're going to sand them up on my belt sander that I got from Harbor Freight. Well, I think that looks cool. Next thing that I think I need to do is cut these tubes off, and these will get used later. Toss this back up on top of the cab, and we can start working inside. Not without an insane amount of effort, I've cleaned out these corners of all the junk that was in there, the seam sealer, the sound deadener, and plus the bed liner that I've added. And then I took these plates that XO-FAB supplied and I modified, bent, and rewelded them to look like that. So then they really fit in these corners perfectly. Then last week we cut these B-pillars down so that they would fit through the holes that I drilled. And set right on top of there, and I would say that fits pretty well. Let me get rid of this seat belt. Now the last thing that we have to do in here is trim the bottom of these a little bit more so that we can get the halo down a little bit lower. So now that we've got this how we want it, and it's positioned here, so that it's straight up and down this way. That's called plumb, by the way. I'm going to tack the tube to the plate on both sides, and then we'll take it and weld it on. And so the plate and the tube will be one piece, but they'll still be removable. Okay, so now that we got these welded to the plates and they're sitting right where we want to make a bar that goes from this end to that end, and I need to make it as high as possible because my shoulders are going to be up here. So if I make one right across there, and then we make an X brace right in the middle somewhere underneath, then I think that'll work out perfect. Okay, so I have two tubes. This one is notched, and I believe this is for the very back one because it's narrower due to the wheel wells of the Jeep XJ. And it goes like that across the back. The other tube I have is just a straight one. I think that's supposed to be a seatbelt bar. And that's actually might work because I want to go a little higher than that. I'm going to notch this one and see if it fits. If you want to cut a 15-degree notch or bevel on a tube or a 2x4 or, you know, your arm or whatever you decide you're going to cut, but you can't cut a 15-degree angle with the tool that you're using, you have to cut a much sharper angle than that. So there's a little bit of math. If you subtract 15 degrees from 90 degrees, you get 75. Now that this is locked in place with this at 75 degrees, all I gotta do is line up this hole saw, and we'll cut a 15-degree bevel out of this end. All right, let's put it in the truck. Now that this is all tacked together, I can start welding everything on the front side of this B-pillar structure, and then we're going to pull this forward and weld everything on the back. But I kind of want to pull this forward now just to see how much room we're going to have. That's about all the room I need to reach back there and weld back here. Let's see if this seat still fits in here. That would be nice, right? I'd like to be able to lean this seat back just a little bit to give myself some headroom. Well, there's good news and there's bad news. The bad news is that I can't lean this seat back anymore because the back of the seat is touching this bar right here. The good news is the headroom is not that bad. I still have probably 2 inches here. Also, this bar right here is out of my way and I can't hit my head on it, and it doesn't touch my shoulder, so that's good. I think next week I'm going to work on the A-pillars that go down to the rock slider that I put in last month. And if I have time, I'll work on the stuff that I'm doing in the back for the cage as well. I may have to buy some metal, but I'm going to try to use up as much of the stuff as I can in that kit to make like the main cage. So stay tuned, I've got some pretty cool stuff planned.